following is a conversation with Stephy Terrizzi. Steffi is viticulturist and owner of Giornata wines in Paso Robles, California. We discuss Fiano, its history, and how they make it work in Paso. We discussed Italian varieties in the USA, organics and irrigation in a world where water security is increasingly fragile. Steffi is a quietly confident person, an incredible source of knowledge on so many important topics which are often left in the vineyard and not brought out into the mainstream conversation of wine.
Stephanie, why Fiano?
So I think Fiano has such an interesting history. It was kind of first time I think I read, or the earliest that I've read it was written about was when King Federico II was in charge of the Roman Empire in the mid 1200s, and it was cultivated. People wanted to drink it. It was popular. And then it seemed to have gained a lot of traction with nobility, and people really loved it. And then eventually it almost disappeared. Antonio Mastro Berardino decided he was going to make some Fiano. He went out to the countryside, and his first, I believe, bottling was 30 bottles. And he found enough vines where he could make, that's like 35 vines probably, or 40 that were just hanging out there. And that's all that was made. And if it wasn't for him, that vine probably wouldn't even exist today. So it went through the 1970s and really not much planted then either. And then in the 1980s, suddenly everybody wanted to try it. And there was this big planting boom. And we're very thankful that somebody took an interest and made that variety of focus, or else it wouldn't be around. So I love it because I think it's a success story, and it's delicious.
So what Fiano means to Paso Robles, do you think?
Well, I think this region is noted in the rest of the world for their big, heavy red wines. And I really think that we can make some really good quality white wines here as well. The vineyard where we're growing this at is it's the VCR clone 3. So I think there are only 3 clones available you can get in California here, and I think there's a total of 6 in Italy. So we're halfway there. I think it does really well here. The vineyard, we have this planted just at one vineyard now, and it's up in the San Miguel district. It's warmer up there. It gets a little cooler at night. The Fiano seems to be just fine on the hot years, holds on to its acidity. We have it planted while it's on one property. It's kind of on opposite sides of the acreage. The first one, kind of 2 very different soil profiles as well. So the first one down by the road has a little bit lower elevation, and by a little bit lower, I mean probably 1,000 feet above sea level. And it has 3 very distinct horizons in the soil. So the top is a really kind of sandy loam soil. So when it rains, there's no runoff. It percolates really quickly. Under that, there's a layer of a sandy clay loam. So it holds onto that water. And then under that, there's kind of a mixture of gravel, sand and clay together. It's really kind of an interesting soil profile. And then on the opposite end, a little bit higher elevation, probably only about 250 feet higher, it is about 2 feet of a very kind of silty clay loam, and then just hard sandstone and calcareous shale under that. And they're very, very different flavors, and we just combine everything together. But we really do, I think we get that little mineral kind of drive to the wine from kind of that top region, and we get a little bit more of that kind of stone fruit kind of flavors kind of from the more bottom area. And I think combined together, and just the acid is always screaming high, I think we get a lot of what we taste in the Italian Fianos from our side as well.
And I guess you pick always quite late compared to even really close to the reds, I guess.
No, it's really interesting. We pick pretty early most years. First thing that always comes in is our Frulano from our estate property. Second thing is all the Vermentinos. It's like a wave of Vermentino that comes in, and we usually almost drown in it. And then the Fiano is usually the next one. So it's actually pretty early. And our latest harvesting white is always Falangina, always. Yeah, I talked to a friend in Australia, and we were in Wisconsin together, and she said Falangina is always the last for them as well, and Fiano's kind of in the middle. So it seems to we have very similar kind of climates of where we're farming.
Steffi, one thing that I don't know if you want to get on your hobby horse about this but I really think it'd be really interesting just to relay like a little bit of the history of Italian varieties in California because there's a sort of history in the past, obviously from the start of the 20th century, where Italian varieties were very important, but then there was the sort of 80s and the experiment with Italian varieties that didn't go so well, and now we have the modern era. So can you give us a little snapshot on the history of Italian varieties in California?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're in Paso Robles, and there are a ton of Italian immigrants that came here. And of course, along with food, wine was an extremely important part of that. Most of the Italians that came here, they were coal makers, and they made the Italian, I'm going to call it style of coal, where they would use trees to make the coal. So they bought property, and the collateral were the oak trees that were on the property, and then they would make coal. And of course, they would grow food, rear animals, and have to have something to wash it down with. So of course they planted grapes as well. Most of them seem to have really turned to Zinfandel as the variety that they planted here on their properties and what they made and drank. I don't know if it's because it made really higher alcohol, and they kind of liked the alcohol in the wine, or what that deal was. But the 90s definitely had that, what I'll refer to as the awful Calital or original movement. And the I'll take Sangiovese for the example because I think it was the most exploited and worst. But it was not the right clones. It was planted in the wrong place. It tasted like every other California variety. There was nothing identifiably authentic about the Sangiovese that was being grown and produced in the 90s in California. And it wasn't, it was kind of expensive too. I mean, there just wasn't any reason to go back and get a second bottle, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of what happened. I think fast forward to early 2000, late 1998 or so, the Rochedo Nursery brought over some newer clones of Sangiovese and Nebbiolo. I mean, all kinds of different stuff started coming over, more higher quality, and planted in the right place. I think people started to do better things. I think the biggest frustration I think I've felt with the Italian varieties in California is it's really treated like every other grape. I mean, there are a lot of Italian Americans in California, and a lot of them that do have vineyards, and their last name ends with a vowel, so they want to plant something on the property that kind of reflects their heritage, and they have 20 acres of Cabernet, and then they put some Nero d'Avola or Sangiovese or something in the back where they're not making the wine, they're selling the grapes, or they're paying someone to make the wine, and it isn't really treated any differently than the Cabernet or Pinot Noir or whatever's grown here. So it really just kind of takes on the flavor of another red California variety. Many times it's over oaked. Hats off to the Cooper. But I mean, my husband spent a lot of time. He worked in Tuscany for Paola De Marchi, really kind of understood Sangiovese, and came back to the United States. And as we set out on this conquest of making Italian varieties in California, which we're turning 20 this year, which is really exciting that we've been doing this now for 20 years. The idea is to make Sangiovese taste like Sangiovese. And while there's many expressions in Italy of Sangiovese, there's, kind of that pure Sangiovese, which I love. And it's elegant, it's pretty, it's light, it's cherry, it's got, I don't know, just bay leaf flavor to it. It's got all these really it doesn't taste like pie filling in it, and it definitely doesn't taste like vanilla. And it's important for us to make that style and also do a super Tuscan and also do kind of a Sangiovese based um, table wine. I mean, it's something I want to drink every Tuesday. All of those exist in Italy, and we can make all those styles here in Paso Robles as well.
So I wanted to ask you a bit of a change of pace, because your job day to day is that you obviously look after the vineyards for Giornata, but you run vineyards for other people as well. That's correct. And I wanted to ask you about organics, because I think that we think about organics in this kind of binary system, sort of black and white view, that organics means organics is a list of things you can't do, which I think it's important to think about it in a different way, and to say, well, it's not just a case of, no, I can't do this, so I do this instead. It's a kind of understanding that holistic process that means that multiple things, everything really is different in order to run an organic vineyard successfully. So it might be a bit dangerous because it's such a broad question, but how do you set up these vineyards to be successful with organics, and what are some of the key things that you can point to, other than saying, well, everything's important? Of course it is, but what are some of the absolute keys for you? And feel free to be as specific as you want about fertilizer applications, or about some of the great kind of organic additions that you can use, or organic sprays and things like that. What are some of the things that you can say about setting up and managing an organic vineyard in where you are in Paso, in California?
Well, I think the first thing that I'd actually love to just have a quick discussion about is the difference between certified organic and non-certified organic. I've been a huge component of, or organic without certification, as I guess the wording I usually use, because certification is a hassle. It's paperwork. It's a bunch of forms you have to fill out, and that to me is the the do's and the don'ts. And recently, I have started thinking, instead of as a checklist, I've been thinking about it as a baseline. And I think what irritated me about it so much was I've always gone above kind of that baseline of organic farming and the thought process behind it. And I thought it was kind of beneath me to do something with such a low bar of of necessities. So I've really been trying to think of it now as like a baseline, that's just the bare minimum that you have to do to be considered organic. I mean, there's so many reasons to be organic, and recently I was at a conventionally farmed vineyard, and it was funny because I really started thinking about it. And the conventionally farmed vineyard is almost like a prescription. It's like when you go to a doctor and you want a certain result or output when it comes to farming. And so it seems to be the only solution is to take an antibiotic or do this or do whatever it is. It's this prescription. And there aren't a whole lot of other factors except for to get the result. I want to get better, or I want to get X amount of tons per acre is kind of what the conventional farmer kind of wants. Whereas organics, it's a whole bunch more. You're trying to accomplish a ton of different things. It's more of a multitasking thing. And how do you make all of those things happen, and how do you kind of make all boats float for what's going on in your vineyard?
So if I ask you then, so in general in Paso Robles, just speaking generally, what would be the main challenges? If your job is I grow grapes for a living, or you own a vineyard, what are your main challenges day to day, just every season, just as an example?
Organics is not anti-sprays or anti-chemicals necessarily. I mean, we're still going to combat powdery mildew. We're still going to combat weeds. We're still going to combat every once in a while leaf hoppers, especially early in the season. You probably need to do something about them. Later in the season, you probably don't. Gophers are my biggest nemesis ever. Deer. Um, And sometimes I like to try to keep the winemakers out. So, no, I'm just kidding. Don't edit that part out. I'm just kidding.
If we take powdery mildew for as an example, so yeah, very very common across many vineyard areas. What are some of the are there some examples from vineyards that you've taken on, or things, new treatments or new ways of working that you think I have got a better answer here for, or I've moved my thinking on in some kind of specific way? I don't know if there's anything like that.
I mean, with the sprays for fungicide, organically speaking, there's the kind of those bio sprays where you're using one organism to kind of outcompete another one. Um, Regalia is something that I've used in the past that I really, really like. It does a great job. I mean, there's also the sulfur-based double nickel. Whey has also been used. So it's hard to get actually our hands on whey around here as a byproduct from our neighbors because they're always fed to like pigs or cattle or something. It's free food for whatever else you're raising. But you can get a powdered whey that you can make, and that you can spray on. And as soon as you spray it in the presence of sunlight, it creates a free radical where it basically just kind of smothers. You can also use oils. You can use all kinds of stuff. And what I really like about those oils and the whey is that I worry about the guy on the tractor. I mean, who's spraying it? It's not bad for them. It's not bad to go back into the vineyard. You can usually technically go in like 4 hours or something, but really, I mean, if you drink it, I mean, you'll clean your intestines out, but that's not going to do anything to you. But
But what are some ways you can make a vineyard more resilient in an organic sense?
Um, I think one of our biggest things is capturing as much rainfall as we possibly can. So building up that soil is for me the number one thing of organics.
So soil health.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of clay in our county, and anywhere there's a hill, there's probably clay. In the middle, there's it's more like quicksand. It's sandy. It's where we should grow blueberries. It's there shouldn't be a lot of vines there, technically speaking, but on the hillsides. Number one, you're on a hill, and number two, it's clay. So as soon as it gets wet, it's a slippery mess. It doesn't absorb water very quickly at all. So you get a lot of runoff, and it's messy. How can we capture as much rainwater as we can just naturally in the vineyard? So by using cover crops, by using, you can increase your organic matter, and that will let you absorb water a little bit more quickly around like the vines. But I think by using as many natural resources as you can, whether that be beneficial insects, I mean, you want everybody on your team when you're fighting things like powdery mildew, leaf hoppers, all that stuff. Why not use the nature that's already there and try to make it work?
Are your vines irrigated or not?
Our vines are irrigated. We've got drip through our entire vineyard. As I mentioned earlier, the most crucial time for me for plants to get water is in the springtime. We don't get rain here from usually middle of May through hopefully the end of November, and so we do need to irrigate. I mean, we've got if like this past year, I think we had about 8 inches of water from January 1st and on. That's not enough. I think science tells us you need 15 inches or something to successfully dry farm a vineyard. So we do need to irrigate. So most of what we irrigate is, I would say, in the spring, if we're having a dry spring. Um, then we'll irrigate a few times. I am a component of aged vines that we irrigate a couple times, long sets. So it really goes down deep. And the last thing I want are those tap roots to create laterals and push out. And because that's just that ground is going to dry up and there's nothing there. They should go down, train your vines to go down and look for water. So by irrigating longer sets, it percolates down further. And I think that's the best way to deal with an older vineyard. At Verasion, we usually cut the water. If it's boiling awful hot here, usually middle of September, we'll give it a little water. At some of the vineyards, I've got some monitoring systems, so kind of these probes underground that you can see how fast percolation happens. And while computers don't grow vineyards, they're a really great tool to be able to see what's happening underground.
And most of the water, where does it come from? Like, do you have a water reserve there, boreholes?
Paso Robles is overdrafted, which means we are pumping out more water than what is being replenished. It's a huge problem right now. Agriculture is the number one user of the water here. So if everybody could do a little bit better, it'd be a huge impact to the community. There's the Paso Robles Basin that really kind of most of the area is pulling their water from. That's going down very, very quickly. There are a couple groups right now trying to figure out how to manage that better. One idea is to tax it. The other idea is put more limitations on, but honestly, there's loopholes, and if people want to attain their end goals, they'll find these loopholes to make things happen. And a lot of that is just wasting water in order to do what they want to do. There was a planting moratorium a couple years ago where no new vineyards could go in. And a lot of these guys that wanted to plant more vineyards planted alfalfa and just dumped water all over it, and then went to the county and said, if I planted a vineyard, I would be using much less water. So they were wasting water in order to be able to plant their vineyard. So people need to be smarter. I mean, one thing we're doing at home is at our estate vineyard, we have sheep, and when we shear them, usually our guard dogs just like to collect the wool and lay on it as their bed. But this year we found you can make wool pellets. So you can make them into these little tiny balls, and we can put them at the base of the plant. They actually hold water, and I think we're going to try doing that this year. We just have to figure out how to make a lot of wool pellets. We're actually we're capturing water both at our home vineyard, estate vineyard, and at the winery. So anything that goes onto the eaves and the roofs, we're capturing. And then we just started our winery wastewater, meaning when we wash out barrels or use water in the winery itself, it goes, into the floor drains. That's pumped up into a tank. And we're setting up a series of chambers where it uses first chamber that it goes into very slowly is dirt with some earthworms. There's a little filter there. Second chamber is lava rocks with some different reeds planted in it. Third one, there's water plants. So basically it's the idea of filtering using, pretty much, dirt. And same as like when you're next to a river, a lot of times there's reeds next to it, and they're cleaning off, pre-filtering anything that goes into the river coming down from mountains or such. So we're trying to do that, use our wastewater out at the vineyard as well, but really trying to do as much as we can.
Water's a big deal, isn't it? It's a very practical issue, isn't it? We don't really think about it so much in our day-to-day lives, in at least not over here. But yeah, it is a big deal, especially here. I mean, our estate actually, we don't have any water because we're part of the basin, and we're to the point now water doesn't really get to our property. So we have enough for our home site, but we don't have anything to irrigate the vines with. So we've been using, kind of this idea of capturing things at the winery and on site just to use it as much as we can. But as we were getting these weird, 2015, I think we got 2 inches total, or close to 3 inches total of rainfall, and 2 of those inches came in July, which we never get rain in July. It's things are just changing, and we need to change with it, with the extremes.